Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Data Playbook. Today we have our Week 15 Sunday games, and unfortunately I didn't get all the changes that I wanted to in for today, but we'll just stick with our regular data, so let's get right to it. Next up, we have the Lions and the Rams. Where the Rams are favored on the money line with a spread of 6 points and a total line of 54.5. And then there's your averages. And looking at the rankings for Detroit, you have a really good offense with the best team in the league at scoring, and a passing rank of 6, and a rushing rank of 5, and then their worst rank at tight end of 23. Defensively, it's a little closer to maybe below average, with an allowed scoring rank of 18, allowed passing rank of 22, allowed rushing rank of 10, and an allowed tight end rank of 15. For LA, you also have a really good offense, with a scoring rank of 4, a passing rank of 5, a rushing rank of 11, and a tight end rank of 14. Defensively, it's closer to average, even though they have a really good allowed scoring rank of 3, their allowed passing rank is 18, and their allowed rushing rank is 11. So this kind of indicates that they must have a really good red zone defense. Starting off with the quarterbacks, you have Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford, with Goff averaging 17.5 fantasy points per game, and Stafford just under 20. There's their averages and their week-by-week information if you need it. And then along with turnovers, with Jared Goff having 5 interceptions this season, and 2 fumbles lost due to sacks. And you have Stafford with 4 interceptions this season, with also 2 fumbles lost due to sacks, and 1 additional rushing fumble. Looking at how they impact the rushing game, you have Jared Goff that doesn't have much of an impact here, maybe about 5% of the rushing carry share, and it looks like this doesn't show up quite right for him for some reason, but I think this is about 5% of the rushing carry share, and this is probably a little lower, about 3%. And then for Stafford, you're at 7.8% of the rushing carry share, but that amounts in almost no yards in the end, maybe even less than 1% here. Next up for your running backs, you have Gibbs and Kyren Williams. With Gibbs, you average 23.6 fantasy points per game, and Williams averages 15.6. There's their season averages. And this season, Gibbs has no turnovers. However, Williams has 2 rushing fumbles. And then looking at their share, you get Gibbs with 56.5% of the rushing carry share and 62.1% of the rushing yard share. And we know that's heavily shared with Montgomery, which we'll look at here just quickly in 1 second. And then with Williams, you're at 60.8% of the rushing carry share and about 63% of the rushing yard share, with the next biggest portion going to Corum, with about a third of carries and rush yards. And then here we have Montgomery, averaging 11.1 fantasy points per game, along with his averages if you need it. And this season he only has 1 rushing fumble. And of course we saw these numbers before, but just going back through, it's about 38.9% of the rushing carry share and 35.3% of the rushing yard share. Then getting into the receivers, you have Amon-Ra St. Brown and Puka Nacua. St. Brown averages just under 18 fantasy points per game, and Nacua has been averaging about 21.6. There's their seasonal averages. As well as for turnovers, the only one comes from Puka Nacua with 1 receiving fumble. And then looking at their share, you have Amon-Ra St. Brown with 30.5% of the target share and about 29.7% of the receiving yard share, which is the largest on the team. And with Puka Nacua, it's about 30% of the target share and about 37.8% of the receiving yard share, which is also the largest of anybody else on his team, which is also the largest for anybody else on the Rams. For your next receivers, you have Jameson Williams and Devontae Adams. Williams averaging 12.5 fantasy points per game, and Adams averaging 16.3. Once again, flipped over for their seasonal averages, and with no turnovers, we're going to go straight to the charts. So of course, pause along the way if you ever need to. But moving on, we have Jameson Williams at 18.7% of the target share and 24.4% of the receiving yard share. And you have Adams at 26.6% of the target share and 22.9% of the receiving yard share. And for both these receivers, they are the second most productive receivers on their respective teams. Ending with our tight ends, you have Anthony Firkser with an average of 1.5 fantasy points per game. He's only had a couple games, really, since they've gone through some of the injuries with tight ends here. But otherwise, you have Colby Parkinson for the Rams, averaging 7 fantasy points per game. And then looking at his averages, with Parkinson also having 1 receiving fumble this season. Moving on, with Firkser, we know that he doesn't have enough to actually show up in this chart yet. But for Colby Parkinson, he's at 7.9% of the target share and 7.1% of the receiving yard share. So this should be a good game to see with 2 very good offenses and some not too bad defenses. So it'll just depend on who can poke the holes the best. One of the things that stands out, though, is that this allowed scoring rank of 3 for LA is really good, although you have the scoring rank of 1 for Detroit, so those are pretty close to even. They're both pretty top tier. However, this allowed scoring rank of 18 for Detroit against the scoring rank of 4 for LA. You also have this allowed passing rank of 22 against this passing rank of 5, and we know Stafford's been doing pretty well with Puka Nakua as of late. So overall, I do think the numbers lean towards LA. But Detroit, can really score. So if they can just manage to outscore LA, then they'll still win this game. So we'll just have to watch and see what they do with their game plans. And there's all your pregame data. I hope that you enjoyed. And if you did, leave a like and subscribe. And leave a comment on what else you'd want to see in the future. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching. And I'll see you in the next one.